have an assistant coach in front of you all. We appreciate your time and efforts covering our program. And, obviously it was great to get off to a good start this past week. And, I think there were a lot of things that, that our team experienced that I think were, maybe customary of an opening week, but also, some real positives. And, we played well on both sides of the ball at times, and then had some other opportunities to experience some things that you're hopeful that might not show up in the first week, but they did. And we had a chance to play under some adversity. And I think our team responded obviously extremely well, especially in the second half. And again, just very thankful to get the win, as Coach mentioned on Saturday. And obviously our eyes are forward and have been since we turned the page on Sunday. And with that said, I'll open it up for your guys' questions.
All right, first question, Tyler Tashman.
Hi, Seth. Hope you're doing well. Just curious with, Rocco kind of had his way a little bit passing last season against you guys. Just what do you feel like you need to do to kind of make sure that doesn't happen and limit him as much as possible?
Yeah, I would say, just, speaking, in regards to the quarterback play at Iowa State, and Rocco is obviously playing at a very high level. And, a lot of that was indicated last week, with his start and the number of completions he had right off the bat. And if you look back at last year and, kind of the passing game against us, I think there were some breakdowns in coverage and some things of that nature that, we've obviously, since spring ball tried to work out and make sure we're primary focus areas for us. And, I think going into this game, that's obviously, a huge challenge for us and something that, we've focused on, not just this past week, but, during camp and all the way back to the spring, is just being a little bit more efficient with what we're doing coverage wise.
Next question is Ethan Petrick.
Hi, Coach. You've mentioned Landon Van Kekerix a couple of times going into the season, and now he's on the two deep. What have you seen from him, and what's allowed him to kind of create that opportunity for himself?
Yeah, I think, what's allowed him to create that opportunity is, it's been noticeable. It's noticeable, obviously, in a couple splash plays that he had special teams wise. If you look at the end of last season in the bowl game against Missouri, and his arrow has gone up since the time that he's been here. He has experienced a couple setbacks from medical standpoints and different things that have held him out of practice. So we really haven't seen Landon at full speed until this past spring and fall camp. And I'd just say he's positioned himself very well to go in there when needed at the Leo and even the will position. But the biggest thing, speaking on his behalf, has just been the way that he's approached things and the efforts he's made to position himself where he's at.
David Eichholt.
Seth, always appreciate your time. Looking back at the film last week, Preston Ree immediately jumps off just with the special teams play. I think he forgot his chin strap on one of the tackles and ran to the sideline like he was completely insane. And as a football guy, I loved it. What have you seen from Preston over the last couple months that's kind of allowed him to find this trajectory? And where have you kind of seen him really key in on?
Yeah, I think, with Preston, it's been noticeable since the time that he arrived here, that he's a worker. He's got a level of toughness to him that, is obviously appreciated at a young age where you're not, you're not timid in regards to the competition at this level, which sometimes that takes a little bit of time to develop, and you got to build that confidence. And, since he's gotten here, like he's carried that confidence with him from a physical and toughness standpoint. I think what you saw the other evening was just illustrated in, in his play on special teams. And if you look back at, like Carson Shires, beginning of his career, that's where he was most noticeable. And he had a lot of those splash plays on special teams. And I would tell you that I think, I think their trajectory is probably, fairly paralleled at this point in time. I don't know that, I don't know that Preston's going to have to wait as long as maybe Carson did, to jump into the linebacker role. But, time will tell. But, I tell you, the other night was pretty impressive just from, what he did as a first year player for us.